We're honored to be joined by Sean Spiller, who's president of the NJEA, also happens to be, to disclose, the mayor of my hometown. I mean, I'm born and raised in Newark, but Montclair has been my hometown for a long time. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us, Sean.
Thank you, and it suits you well. Glad to have you here in town.
You got it. Hey, listen, there's a whole bunch of things that we're focusing on. A lot of it's about the NJEA convention, which was in person and virtual. Next year, we will be on the convention floor talking to people directly in person. But this year, we're doing it this way. I'm going to ask you something. The theme of racial equity, social justice, the inequities that exist, exacerbated, if you will, by the pandemic, no less important this year than any other year, right, Sean?
Yeah, that work continues. You know, I think, especially when we talk about justice, and certainly educational justice, environmental justice, racial justice, social justice, economic justice, it's not like you start it, you work on it for a few months or a year or two, and then you're done. This is ongoing work. I think as you note, the pandemic has laid bare a lot of the challenges that we face, certainly in the educational space and as a society. And we've got to keep working on this. This is a matter of all hands on deck. We've got to keep, as educators, the process moving, that journey going forward. And we're committed to that as an organization, and we're going to keep going.
There's a lot of noise about quote unquote critical race theory. Let people decide that where that is a real issue in their state. But the question and the issue of teaching about race and racism, and you and I have talked about this before. I'm not exactly sure what's controversial about that, but the question is, where, from your perspective as the president of the NJEA, where is the role, what is the role for educators in public schools to teach about race and racism? And if we don't do that, then just let the parents talk about it? Okay, let's talk about it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't understand when this became controversial. When we're talking about history, when we're talking about, teaching history, making sure that our students understand what has happened, that we can always, learn from history, that we can look forward and try to do better because we've learned those things, because we can learn that the contributions in a state as diverse as ours to boot, learn the diversity that we have and the strength that we get from it, and share all of those pieces. It's never at the expense of someone else, or it doesn't diminish any other experience. It's to uplift us all. So it's saddening in some ways, because I know that as educators throughout the state are engaging in that work and making sure we are inclusive in what we do and teach and talk about, and show the different perspectives and the broad dynamic, population that we have here in this state, and want to honor that. We're hearing about quote unquote critical race theory, which I will note, and if you want to put it to the side, that is not what is happening. So let's be clear. But people are talking about, people are talking about history. People are talking about race. People are talking about racism. People are talking about what we've done, what we can do better, how we can move forward, what we can critically think about. And I think all of those things are important. And we should demand nothing less for our students to be learning about and to be able to cope with, learn from, and do better because of.
And real quick, I'll get off this in a second, but those who say, come on, that's not, quote, for the classroom. There are many who argue that reading, writing, and arithmetic, basically, and science, that's the job of our educators. Beyond that, we'll handle that at home. Talk to those folks.
Well, listen, I'd say this, now more than ever, we want our students to be able to get information, understand how to sort through that information. You might be like me. I remember when we had to go to the encyclopedias that were on the shelves, or, find information in other ways. And now there's so much at our students' fingertips, right? They're right online, they're plugging something in, and they're getting a lot back. But what they're getting back isn't always factual. It isn't always relevant or accurate. We've got to make sure we teach them how to look through that information. And then when they come to an opinion in their minds, we need to challenge them and say, how did you come to that? Why? Did you know about this in our history? How does that shape how you look at this moving forward? Did it change your view or perspective? Those are all things that we should want to teach, because it's going to allow our children to become critical thinkers. That's going to help them as they move into the workforce. But most importantly, it's going to help them as we move forward in their civic society, their duty to be on a field where we can help this democracy work, and where we can move forward in a constructive way as humans and be kind to one another.
Sean, I do not want this to turn into a commercial for public broadcasting, and I won't let it be that. But at the same time, you're talking about civic education, public awareness, which is what that's the business we're in. We don't advocate for anyone or anything. But I've disclosed this before, that the NJEA supports NJ Spotlight News. It supports other programs in public broadcasting. It supports what our independent production company does. What does that have to do with what we just talked about?
A lot of people say to us all the time, oh, what you said before, just stay in the lane and just talk about, 2 + 2 = 4. And we say to all of them, no, because that student sitting in front of us isn't going to learn 2 + 2 = 4 if they're impacted by so many other things going on in society and we're not helping their community. That student isn't going to learn 2 + 2 = 4 if we don't understand and recognize that they've never seen anything in a textbook that speaks to their lived experience. That student isn't going to learn 2 + 2 = 4 if we know that they're facing challenges in every other aspect of their life that helps to push them down. We've got to make sure we're in all these spaces because we want to give every student that opportunity for success. That's our role, nothing less, and we've got to honor that charge.
And our role is to provide meaningful, objective information and analysis, and we have no horse in this race. You get that information, decide for yourself. Sean, listen, in a couple minutes we have left. The so-called new normal in public education, it will never go back to what it was, not passing judgment on this. What do you believe it will be, particularly as it relates to the teacher-student relationship moving forward into 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, I think, and I hope that there are aspects of the old
By the way,
normal.
Sean is an educator. I want to make it clear that Sean's been a long time educator, not just an executive. Go ahead.
A high school science teacher. But so I think the key piece is, we don't want to go back and adopt everything from the old normal. There are certainly key pieces we want to make sure we bring back into our new normal. There's a lot that we've learned in that new normal that we said, man, this is a way to reach a student that we didn't have before. This is another tool or technique. I'd love to see, us taking the best practices of what we learned, not rushing and quickly going back to just, hey, we're back to where we were, all things are good. Let's look at some of those pieces that allowed us to have a better connection with our students. Educators know what those have been. We've been able to try those out, quite frankly, over the last number of months. And then as that goes forward, let's infuse some of the new with some of the old, and let's get back to a new normal that's a better normal. And I think that's what everyone in the educational space is talking about, how we could all work with one another. That means administrators, that means in-classroom educators, support staff, everybody talking about how we can make that new normal even better for our kids.
The Push to Walk initiative, it was a big theme at the NJE convention. Talk about it.
Listen, it's a situation where a former actually student that I work with and had as a hockey player, unfortunately had a tragic incident where he became paralyzed, and kudos to his parents for helping to start Push to Walk. And really over the last 15 years or so, it has turned into something that's such an important piece for so many individuals that have had spinal cord injuries. It's an opportunity for rehabilitation, both mentally and physically, and they do just such great work. It was really an honor to honor them as one of our event and convention groups that we focused on and highlighted, and really just so appreciative of the work that they do. I certainly will say for anybody who's looking to support or learn more, just go to www.push2walknj.org, www.push2walknj.org. They're a great organization. They do wonderful work. We all know insurance runs out at some point and you need extra help and extra care for a loved one. They're a great place that you can turn to.
Before I let you go, real quick, 30 seconds or less, the second agenda in the Murphy administration, and we keep saying the Murphy administration, but there's new leadership in the state Senate. There's a whole range of things going on in the lower house. 2022 in New Jersey, in the New Jersey State House, top 2 issues for the world of education should be?
Let's focus on that new normal. I love to see the governor really put a focus on it with his administration in terms of a direct person in charge of taking a look at how we work on staffing issues. A big concern right now. We see it all across the board, what that new normal looks like. You've got educational partners who've really been working close together over the last number of months and are excited to do that work moving forward together. And I certainly think that there's space there for this governor to really leave a mark to say, not only did I bring us back to X point in education, I moved it this far forward.
Real quick, biggest highlight for you from the NJE convention of 2021?
I loved seeing individuals again in person. I know we had a robust online piece as well, and a lot of people participated that way. But for me personally, you get recharged and energized when you see people and can kind of go from there. I thought it was a wonderful dual use there. Certainly excited. Hopefully next year we're back to a more regular convention with an online component, of course. But it was really exciting to see people and to be engaged in that professional development in person with colleagues.
Well said. Thank you, Sean.
Good to see you, sir.
You got it. We're right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Valley Bank, RWJ Barnabas Health, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Johnson & Johnson, the Fidelco Group, New Jersey Institute of Technology, PSC&G, and by MD Advantage Insurance Company. Promotional support provided by CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and by ROINJ,